So one of the things that I loved about the ending of the film that a lot of my gay friends didn't is that they didn't have sex. But for me, ultimately, that's why it was more about intimacy. But can you talk, was there a discussion about where they're gonna hit it?
I don't know, I don't think there, well, I mean, who doesn't want to see people hit it? I mean, I think somebody said the other day that people like to think of, people like to see other people have sex more than they actually like to have sex. There was a study, like people enjoyed it more for some reason. I don't know about all that. I do recognize the outcry to want these people to impassion themselves, but one of the things that Barry did that isn't in the original script that I think is so smart is the reason why you were on bated breath when they got into that diner is because all of the events previously were warp speeding up until this point. And then all of a sudden, time stops and starts being real time. So that bell goes ding, and you start going 1 minute. I mean, you can hear it's with the music. It's in time with the music, and you're rocking in the rhythm of it. And you have to watch these men. You have to remember you are coming into that diner with all the things that they've been through to get them to this point. And if you're watching it in real time, there is no way, in my estimation, that Chiron or Kevin gets past all the years that they've been together into that kind of passion without it destroying something, right? And so what they're really after, we see them get to. Now, yes, I think the narrative continues after that, absolutely. What happens after in those hours in between, I don't know. But in those 20 to 30 minutes that we sit with them, we have to watch them move mountains. And I think that's why we kind of wait on, and I see why people are like, oh yes, they got past that, now go. And it's like, yeah, they got past that, but he still punched them in the face, right? And I think that's one of the things I'm like, nah, bro, I don't know how y'all roll it, but if you socked me a couple thousand times in front of everybody and let them jump on me and then I went away, we gonna have to have a couple conversations. I mean, essentially, he says I'm sorry, but yes, you know what I'm saying? And so we got some things to get through. I got some things I built up in order to get, and I think also one of the things that's important is the reason Trevante Rhodes that jump from Ashton plays Chiron and Trevante plays Black. The reason that jump is so important is because we see what time the prison industrial complex and the streets have done to him in that time. So he's got to disarm like he does when he eats that food. He's got to take the traps out in order to consume what he needs. And in order to do that, we're watching that in real time. So I don't know how undressed he could have gotten. You know what I'm saying? What baggage he needed to leave off in order to get to that passion, but I bet it would have felt more unreal to do that. I think the verisimilitude of what happens actually here is more akin to what they stripped down just enough that we knew that they had a future. Does that make sense?
It's super interesting to hear you talk about the original structure of this piece and what happens in the film, because that third act feels the most like a play.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And it felt to me, if you didn't tell us how this came about, like structurally, how it sort of like developed, I would have thought, yes, this is verbatim the way that you had written something intended for the stage.
Right.
So I'm hoping you could talk a little bit about language, like
sure.
how you approach the representation of speech and silence, which is so powerful in all of your work, but it really comes through in this film.
Well, I gotta give it back to, I'm a collaborator, ultimately. That's what I love to do in life and love to do at work. I collaborate, I like to, I never sort of jump into anything and sort of think I know and have all the answers to it. What I do, and so I'm saying that because what Barry said to me was, look, trust me with this. And he provided space for the language to work in a cinematic way, right? Because in plays, as most of you know, as you all know for sure, I have to speak, I have to have oral engagement somehow. I may not have to speak, but I might have to sing, or I have to do something in order to get you along with the narrative, right? It's an oral experience. Even if it's just clapping, or what Odetta did with the clicks and the, right? There's something to that in order for that live performance connection to work. In the cinema, it is visual and expansive, and so one of the reasons for filming it in Miami is for that horizon, that ocean horizon connection. Miami's flat, so you have infinite space, seemingly, right? You're not impeded by a hill or mountains, or there's, it goes on if you look at it. So that was one of the things Barry wanted to do, is give the characters space and then compress them with the environment in order for that speech to rumble out and make sense. Then you get these actors who, my God, look, that's what I'm telling you, I love collaboration, because I can only do so much, and Barry can only do so much. But you get these actors who are coming to this with a kind of generosity of spirit. Even the youngest among us. I mean, they when they do say something, they say it with the urgency of stage, but only because they understand the circumstances and the pressure that they've been put under. I mean, when Jarrell is talking on the beach with Ashton in that scene on the ocean, it's as if they are literally speaking verse. That was written in verse, but it doesn't feel like it. It feels like it's necessary. It feels like the conversation two young boys trying to find themselves would have. And I could write it all day, but unless they feel it like that, that wouldn't happen. So I think Barry was really conscious of just making sure that the time and space in between things felt compressed enough that language would come out of immediacy, out of not saying anything so long that it was fumbling towards something, right? Sarah McLachlan would say fumbling towards ecstasy, right? And I thought that was when I first saw it, I thought he did an incredible job of preserving that.
It's a super generous answer. Yeah.
I think my job is always to get in the room and see what fits the actor. August used to do that all the time. Lynn Nottage does it all the time. When you see an artist saying your work, if it's not fitting them right, tailor it. That's why we're still alive. Once we pass away, then it's like, okay, well, you don't know what. But when you're working with a live person and you're seeing them there, it's like, oh, that's not really working for you, or that's working for you. Let me give you some more of what you need to do. Or you're adding in things that we should keep, right? Because there's some things in there. Barry tells the story about the scene, the rehab scene, the scene where Paula, played by the amazing Naomi Harris, who, by the way, shot all those in 3 days. She's in the rehabilitation scene, and it's a hard scene for me to watch because it's so close to the time that I went and visited my mother in rehab, and we had that conversation that it takes me out. But what isn't in the script, and I couldn't have imagined, was Naomi doesn't smoke. She doesn't drink. She barely. When we go out, she's like, "Can I have hot water and some lemon?" It's like she's so sweet about it, and that's her thing. Everybody else is like getting tipsy. She's like, yeah. So she doesn't do anything. So she had to, the scene calls for her to light a cigarette, and she was having trouble navigating it in a way that a pro who was, been an addict and is now in recovery and pops a cigarette to sort of ease the tension does, and she was having trouble with it. And as you can see, and then Barry just asked Trevante to go over and help her with it. And because he went, let me do this for you, Mama. She went, "Thank you, baby. I'm sorry." And that started a whole other scene about the, "I'm sorry, I wasn't there for you." And Barry just kept it rolling. Because again, these were actors who just came to the party. They showed up. And so when they show up, you just get out of the way and let them do what they do best. So again, I know it sounds like I'm sort of deflecting and being ultra humble, but I also am smart enough to know when things are good, get out of the way. And I think Barry is one of those directors. It's like they're doing the work, so we're gonna let them work.
Let's